Yeah.
All right, we'll give it a go. Can you hear me now? As they say on the TV commercials in America. All right, so I'm Doug. I'm going to talk a little bit about augmented reality in the browser because I think that's pretty cool. I'm originally from Seattle in America, but I've been traveling as a digital nomad around Europe with my family for like 3 years. So what do I do when I do that? I do developer relations, so I help companies talk to developer communities, I write documentation, I figure out how to build those communication pathways. I also got started in performance, so I help make native apps run faster. I do audits to help companies figure out how to make their apps run faster. I help people how to make their websites run faster, because if you have a slow website or a slow app, your customers get frustrated. Is it working?
No.
It's not working.
You might have lost battery.
That's why it turned off, because it didn't have juice. Yeah, yep. There we go, no battery. All right, well, I'm going to keep talking, and hopefully you'll have backup audio somewhere of this. So I run workshops on performance and images and video, because a lot of times what are the biggest files on your webpage in your app are images and video. And I'm going to talk about augmented reality today. So that sort of led from my interest in images to try to figure out other things you can do on the web that are really cool. I wrote a book about speeding up Android apps. If you're interested, you're an Android developer, feel free to, that's the PDF, so feel free to download it. I'll post the slides tonight. And then if you ever want to chat about any of this, I'm the only Doug Sillars on the internet, so I'm easy to find. So virtual reality, right? It's sort of this idea that you go into a 3D world that's inside the computer. And you know, it's actually really easy to do. They have these headsets that you strap on, you pop your smartphone in, and you can enter a virtual world really, really easily. And what's great about this is, if you go to Amazon, there's like 3,000 of them on Amazon, and they're relatively cheap. I mean, you could spend a lot of money on these if you want to, but you can get them for like 20 euros. I got mine on sale for like 13 pounds, which is what, like 15 euros, right? So super cheap. I got it the next day even, right? And so it's really cool. The problem is, of course, this is not something you carry around with you, right? Like, I'd like to see that in virtual reality, right? You don't do that. It's something that you do at home, you do at work, you do at a specialized place. Augmented reality, I guess I've been doing augmented reality for like 7 years now because I had Google Glass, so I like knew when I got a tweet because it would like pop up in the corner. The best thing about Google Glasses is the sunglasses. Those are the best sunglasses I've ever owned. There was a huge thing with those devices that people were really worried that you were recording them whenever you're walking around wearing them. And the thing is that Google didn't want to tell you this, is that if you were recording video with the Google Glass, you had about 120 seconds of battery life. So like, was I recording you on video? Hell no, because I wanted to see when a tweet would pop up like 20 minutes later. So it's one of those things like, no, people weren't recording you because you didn't have the battery life really to do that anyway. But that was sort of like one of the intros to like augmented reality. Nowadays you can get like a HoloLens. Has anyone used one of these before? One hand. They're really neat, and they like put a 3D world right on that visor right in front of you. And they're, it's kind of fun. I've gotten the chance to play around with them. The trick, of course, with the HoloLens is that they cost $3,000. So like that's out of most everybody's reach. Like I can't afford one of those. But like industry can use these. There are a lot of people building, training materials for companies, because if you can do augmented reality and you can drop 3,000 times however many employees you have, that's awesome. I saw a demo of one where it's actually they built an app for the person who goes out and decides how much asphalt to place in your driveway, because they could actually point those 5 points and then it would measure the area. And it was allowing them to do so many more quotes. It was worth them spending the $3,000, because they, instead of like a measuring tape and making mistakes, they knew exactly like within like 4 minutes how much asphalt they would need. But what's cheap, at least for most of us, is most all of us have a smartphone, right? A lot of people have smartphones. So what if we can do augmented reality in the smartphone? That's going to get out to a lot more people a lot faster. And of course, the use case that I have to mention because it's augmented reality on a smartphone is Pokemon Go, because like that's sort of what everyone thinks of when you think of augmented reality in the browser. Like, there's Krabby and he's on the lawn right in front of me. How cool is that? Going back to the performance, because that's where I sort of, my original passion on mobile is, remember this used to crash all the time? Like when it first came out, you'd like capture something and the app would just crash. The reason it was crashing is the Pokemon API was opening like 5 or 6 connections per device back to Niantic Labs. So there was like I don't know what the API said, but I assume one's like, where are the nearby Pokemon? Where are the nearby gyms? Where is Doug? Where am I? You know, like, and it was opening 6 calls and they were having IP collisions. They were basically having a distributed denial of service attack from their own application, and that's why it was crashing. And every now and then they have like a festival and they get like 10,000 people in one space and they have the same problem because they're still like running out of room on their servers. But what would be even cooler than an app is, because an app, there's a little bit of it takes to get people to download an app takes a little bit longer. But if you could do it in the browser, everybody's phone has a browser, and every iPhone and every Android phone basically that's out there today can do augmented reality or virtual reality in the browser. And so if you've got all of that, it'd be really cool to be able to build these experiences right in the browser. So I'm going to talk about what's available today, what's coming tomorrow. What we can do today is A-Frame. Has anyone checked out A-Frame before? A couple hands. So A-Frame is built by Mozilla. It's open source. It's really, really easy to use, and that's why it's a great demo for something like this. If you want to see any of my code, it's all up on GitHub, so you can go play with it and you know, see what it looks like. So what's really cool about A-Frame is, if you've ever looked at HTML, A-Frame sort of looks like semantic HTML. So this is a web page, right? HTML, end HTML, head, body. And then this is the A-Frame stuff. And so we've got, basically I'm opening an A-Frame scene, I close an A-Frame scene, and in that scene I put an A-Frame box, sphere, cylinder, plane, and sky. And then, you know, there's positions and stuff, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what that looks like is, it looks like this, right? I've got a sphere, a cube, a cylinder. It's virtual reality, and I can walk around everything here as I, you know, move around. So that's pretty cool. Like, that's virtual reality in Chrome. So the way it works is I have to add the A-Frame script, right? So there's some JavaScript. There's the scene, and there's the stuff in the middle. All right, so I kind of went ahead with the demo before my slides. So the position is X, Y, and Z, where Z is pointing out of the screen, which of course means that everything has to be negative Z because you're looking into the screen. It's a little confusing, but like, as long as you keep that thing, you know, you look at it, you'll be able to figure it out. And it's a web page, so if you screw it up, you just change the parameter, you reload the web page, and it's like, it's fixed, so it's super easy. So I want to build an art gallery. And so the first thing I need for an art gallery is a bunch of walls. So I put a bunch of planes that are 4 meters apart, and it makes a box, and I rotate them so they're a box. And what that looks like is A-Frame room. And I left the hello world in the middle, right? So now I've got a box that I'm inside, right? 4 walls, so now I can build an art gallery. Now, one thing that's really funny about A-Frame is each plane, I've given these sort of this green color, but I only define the color on one side of the wall. So the other side of the wall is see-through until you define it. So like, you know, Just something to think about. And there's no like, there's nothing blocking people from walking through walls or anything. There's no like physics that prevents you from like walking over the sphere, right? I can just walk right through it. All right. All right, so I want to build some virtual reality art. So here we go, A-frame room art. Basically what I did here is I downloaded Screen from Wikipedia. A-frame room art. And there it is. It's hanging on the wall. Look, it's an art gallery, just like that. So the way I added this is that I add an asset. And so basically what the asset is it's an image with a source, and I'm hosting it up on a cloud-based image hosting service called Cloudinary. So I'm hosting the image there, and then on my box, I apply that source to it. So I say, put Scream on my box. So basically, I put it at -4, so it's on the front wall. I put it 2 meters up, so it's hanging on the wall. You wouldn't put Scream on the ground, right? I mean, this is a priceless work of art. And then, like, the way I decided the size was, according to Wikipedia, it's 91 centimeters tall and 73 centimeters wide. And then I just gave it a little bit of thickness so that it looked like art. And there we go. And so what that looks like is, this is, right, there's, and so the way, what this does is it actually puts the whole image of Scream on all 6 sides of the box. So basically it's like smashed right here on the edge right here. But what's kind of cool about that is the colors are the same. So it kind of looks like the wrapped canvas look that's popular these days. And actually, if you walk around to the back, Scream is on the back too. Right, so I mean, this is kind of fun. There's a lot of other things you can do with A-frame. You can animate it, right? So I can make it spin. I mean, don't do that with priceless art, but you can on the web. And so basically that's just for that box, I added an animation that rotates it around in 5 seconds around all 3 axes and just keep doing it forever. All right. But what we can do is, because this is virtual, I can take art from Norway and the Mona Lisa out of the Louvre and this Picasso, which is in Madrid, I think, and I don't know where Starry Night is, but it's probably in France somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what. And I can take Michelangelo's David and I can put them all in one room. And that is, I forgot the URL, A-frame room art 2. And there it is, right? I've got the top art masters, you know, all on one wall. And you can see, you know, they're all pretty small. If you've ever seen the Mona Lisa, it's like teeny tiny. There's thousands of people trying to get up to see this tiny little thing. They're all pretty small. The Picasso is actually really big. And it's actually 5 meters long, so I had to make it smaller to fit on the wall. But because this is all virtual and we can make stuff up, I can actually make Starry Night bigger, right? There's no reason I can't make that, or I can't lie about the size of the artwork. And we can walk right up to it and it still looks really good because, you know, it's a very high resolution, you know, we can walk right through it. No alarms. And then over here in the back, this is the not safe for work part because, oh, David, there is David. Right? And so he's a 3D model, and I'm going to talk a little bit about 3D models because I can place a 3D model in this space, and if we walk around David, we can see his bum, right? It's literally, it's Michelangelo's David. So that's kind of cool. We can add all of these things. We can make a virtual art gallery. And it's moving so slowly. All right. And so basically what I have here is on the front wall, I've got the X, the Y, the X is moved so they're not overlapping. And then I've got the Picasso there, and then Here I am lying about the size of Starry Night, and then Michelangelo's David is in the back. Now, the ceiling I had before was kind of boring, so let's go big. We could actually add like a pretty nice ceiling, right? Because we can, right? It's an virtual art gallery. We can put anything we want anywhere we want to. And so the way I did this is, obviously it's a Sistine Chapel, and so I took a cylinder, I rotated it, put it on top, and then I only show 180 degrees, so it's sliced in half, and so you get this nice curve, and it's, you know, it's a Sistine Chapel. All right, that's pretty awesome. I gave this talk a couple weeks ago, and someone was saying that the Vatican is trying to keep a copyright of all of those images, so like, hopefully the Pope doesn't come after me. It'll be like a Da Vinci Code thing where I'm running with my laptop, and then, but so the 3D model is a GLTF, and so that's the format, and GLTF files, you can export from almost any 3D modeling library into GLTF, and it's going to be supported in every browser. So it's like this open format that's supported, that's got really good browser support. You've got a GLTF file, which is an XML file that basically describes where everything's going. The binary file is where all the points are, and then these are the two images that wrap around all the points to create David. The trick with these GLTF files is when you export them from your 3D modeling tool, is that it's always doing it at the highest possible resolution. So if we look, this is like 26 megabytes that are being downloaded into the website. Probably a little big. If you put a lot of these, the web page is going to get really, really slow. So I'm an optimization guy. I always try to figure out how to optimize these things. This whole web page was 30 megabytes, so we need to think about that, right? That's too big. It's going to take a long time on a cell phone to load this web page. So we're not going to forget optimization as we go through here. But we're going to switch to augmented reality right now. And what's great about augmented reality is there's a, built into A-Frame, there's AR.js. So I just add a second script, and then there's some stuff I add at the bottom. This is a great intro to augmented reality. You can add markers, and then you have to add a camera, because obviously the camera has to tell you where things are. So with that, here is a, let's see if I can get this to work here. AR Hero. So if you go on your phone and you type this in, I've got it saved, and then you hold your phone up and look at this marker, the Mona Lisa is going to pop out on your phone on a cube. Well, and I got myself this super long cord. So right, it's a cube. As long as I have the Mona Lisa, or as long as I have the box in view, you can see that. And so this is kind of a cool thing. You can build these markers, and you can see how this is something that you could, you know, use in a marketing campaign or get people interested by building a 3D world while someone's waiting for a bus. It's really easy to type in a URL and they can see something fun, or hit a QR code, go to a web page, and they get some sort of 3D model. So that's kind of exciting. I'm gonna have more markers up in a second, but I'll let everybody try this one. I see people still tapping. But it's kind of fun. I mean, it works. It's actually, it looks really, really large because I made it like 3 times larger the size of the marker, and this is really big. So like the Mona Lisa gets really, really big. I should resize it for this application. But you can create your own markers. There's a website where you basically take an image and you upload it, and it gives you 2 files. It gives you a PNG of this, and it gives you a .pat file that goes into the, I don't know if number 1 works on that web page. I don't think it does. We'll get you another web page where the 1 will work. And I'm super not creative, so I created a bunch of these I just basically opened up Word and took 72-point font and I made a 1, 2, 3, and 4 because I'm not super creative. But then what you do is you have a marker and you say, you know, when you go to this web page, show the Mona Lisa if you see number 1. All right, so if we go to this web page, this is just, and it's case sensitive, so you have to do the art.
There's a printer here if you want to print out.
I think we're good. You know what we can do? Give me a second here. What I can do is close this, inspect, open this, and then what I can do is I'm going to send that. Where did it go? Send that to desktop 2. All right, so if I go to I think that's it. Oh, except for I can't spell. Is that loading? Oh, come on. I had this all connected and then I stepped on the cable and it all came unconnected. So like, I feel for you guys with your AV stuff. Unclick. We'll try that again. All right, well, we can just go like this. I think I have the page open. Yeah, I do. So if I hold this up, whoa, holy Mona Lisa cleavage. That was too close. So there's the Mona Lisa, and if you go to that one, again, me not being super creative, the image of me gives a box of me. And so what this is doing is the web page has the pattern file, which is showing this marker. When it identifies that marker on the screen, it superimposes whatever image I have there. And I'm going to try to get this to connect up again as we move ahead. So let's talk a little bit about optimizations. If you're on a slow connection, it sort of loads like this. And that's not super ideal. Like, no one wants to go and wait for stuff to load. And if you look, Starry Night is taking a really, this is on a 3G connection, so I'm simulating a 3G connection. And yeah, no one wants a hole in the wall in their art gallery. It does load eventually. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. All right, so what can we do to speed this stuff up? I give a talk on image performance. These images, if you actually look at Starry Night, it's 1.8 megabytes in Chrome DevTools. That's too big. One thing that's true when you're building with A-Frame, which is built on 3.js, is every single image has to be, the dimensions have to be a power of 2. So in this case, it's downloading the image and then my phone is resizing it to 1024 by 1024. So if I can do that on the server, it's going to be a lot faster than doing it on my phone. So the first thing I do is I resize the image. So when I upload this image to Cloudinary, it gives me a URL and I can change parameters in there. And by doing this, it makes it 1024 high. So now the image is the right size. The other thing that we see here is in Chrome DevTools is that all of my images are downloading twice. Why are my images downloading twice? Well, it turns out the way 3.js handles cores, cross-origin elements, is that if you don't have a cross-origin, it just downloads it again with the cross-origin. So that's super wasteful. So the trick there, the fix there is obviously to add a cross-origin to all of your image requests, and then it doesn't download them twice. And then I can optimize the quality of the image, I can optimize the format of the image, And when I do that, this 1.8 goes down to 323K. And so by optimizing the quality, I'm removing pixels, but I'm doing it to a level where the human eye can't tell a difference. By doing the format, if I'm opening it in Chrome, it's probably serving me a WebP, because WebP is a format that's supported in Chrome. I then decided I could go even smaller, so I made it 512 by 512, and now the image is 93 kilobytes, right? That's gonna load super fast, even on a 3G connection. GLTF, there's a thing called Draco compression. And if you're using GLTF files, you just Google Draco compression. There are tools out there. It took this 25 megabyte file down to like 4.5, right? Still big, but not 25 megabytes. We're getting something a little bit more reasonable. You know what? I skipped ahead because I have, whoops, I skipped ahead with the markers, and I'm sorry about that. But let's go back to the markers. I have 4 markers here, and they all work with that art page that we just had open, or if you do have it open. And I'm going to see if I can get my phone to connect to here. Maybe I have to unplug stuff. Let's see if that helps. I'll try to connect again. It helped if this worked last. Let's see here. Close that. Close that. All right, that's working. Inspect. That's a good sign. Record heat waves. So what we can do is we can go to right, so this is my phone, and what I can do is I can hold it up to the number 1, and you can see I get the Mona Lisa. And if I change it to number 2, I get Scream. If I turn it to number 3, it takes a second, I get the Picasso. And my favorite is number 4. It's the pigeon view of Michelangelo's David, right? Because it's set for the base to be number 4. So this is the view that only the pigeons in Florence get to see of David, or if you come to this talk, right? So what's really cool, as long as you can see these things, you get a whole different web experience. And what's fun about this is you can totally change the content depending on who's looking. So you could have an art gallery where, you know, one person who likes Cubist art gets only Cubist paintings. Someone who likes Impressionist art only gets Impressionist paintings. In this case, this second page I'm going to load is Beatles covers, right? So 4 might not work. I can't remember. I think it doesn't work. Yeah, Sgt. Pepper's, right? So you can have different things for different users. So you could actually, you know, with just some simple coding, completely change the content for different people looking at the same markers, which leads to a lot of fun potential applications. And like, you know, if I were to print these out on the wall, people could walk around and look at the different things that are out there. So, you know, it's kind of fun. This is kind of fun stuff that is pretty easy to build. And so for me, that's kind of exciting because I think it lets a lot of people do different things with. All right, so I talked about optimizations, how to make these images smaller, because I think that's really important. So I'm going to talk about what's coming in the future. And there's a WebXR API that's under development by the W3C. It's still in development. There's some newer drafts that have come out since this has been published. But down here is what's really important to see. It's an unstable API, so anything you build is going to break. That's basically what they say, is don't build anything that you want to show anyone because it's going to break. And so the demo I'm going to show you only works on Android 8. You have to install an app called ARCore. And then it only works on Chrome Canary version 70 to 72, which is like from October of last year. And then you have to turn on a bunch of flags. The newer versions of Canary, it's already broken. So I can't have a new version of Canary on my phone. So you have to go to like one of those sketchy like APK mirrors and download an old version of Canary and sideload it onto your phone. Turn on all the flags. And then when you go to bed, like all of your apps update, and you have to redo this again in the morning because it's all broken again. So if you're going to do this a lot, you can go into the Google Play Store and say, don't auto update Canary. And so actually, if you look at the, it doesn't show it, but in the corner of my phone, there's like the red, like, oh crap, Doug, you're way behind on updating Chrome Canary. It's because I really am very far behind in updating Canary. There's only one API right now. But what this API will do is it can actually identify if it's a wall or a floor or a ceiling. So it understands if the surfaces are vertical or horizontal. And from that, you can assign things in augmented reality to those spaces. And so I built a demo. So I'll open that up. Here we go. And it runs this hit test. And so I'll just go back to my phone here. And so the thing this is my phone in live, and so I start augmented reality, and you can see this thing, and what it's telling me to do is it's trying to learn the walls and the spaces of this room. And what it will do is when it finds a spot that it can identify as a vertical space, it's a little hard here because the walls are completely white, but let's see if I can find a spot. All right, I'm gonna try to hit that right there, see if it works. All right, it put Scream on the wall right there. And right next to it, that didn't work. Let's find a better space. Maybe over here on the windows. It thinks it's far away when the thing is small. Oh, right there on the molding. Come on.
It must have details.
It needs a little, right, I mean, if it's just a white flat space, it doesn't really know what the heck it's looking at.
Like texture.
It needs a little bit of texture. So it's, whoa, look, it didn't load that image. That's broken. I'm gonna reload the page, and that makes me think that something isn't right. I've never had that happen before. That's kind of cool. All right, so it does need a little bit of texture, so we'll try to put it on something on the door. All right, so there we go. And then above it, the Mona Lisa, and then Starry Night. All right, so as long as it can find that texture on the wall, it can actually put things on the wall, and if I walk around, it sort of knows where they are, and they stay there. And if I, move around and just like look at other things, but then I come back, like it kind of knows in space that there's like priceless art hanging on the wall right there. And so like and it's basically a JavaScript that's just looping through 0, 1, 2, 3, and then everything after 3, it just keeps putting So now Starry Night's over here by my laptop, but the other two are still over here. Right, so it remembers where these things are in space. I think that's really cool. And so, this is working now, it's live, sort of, but this is gonna be available in all mobile browsers probably in the next year. And so now you can start thinking about some really fun AR, sort of interactive things that you can build where people can just push on their phone, they don't need to print things out, it all just kind of works right on their phone. Which adds a lot more different opportunities and possibilities to play with this stuff. So again, a few optimizations. The demo that I built this off of came from Google, and they had an animated GIF. And generally, I'm not a big fan of animated GIFs, but it's transparent, so it lets me put that over the video of my phone, and it's transparent. And then there's this anchor. That's 1024 by 1024. The anchor's off by 1, so it actually has to get resized by my phone because they have 1 too many pixels. So this one, animated GIFs tend to be really large files. So I decided I was just going to crop it down to the part that really matters, because who cares about all of this white space that's just there? And so what I did is I uploaded it to Cloudinary, and I just found this point, which is x230, y128, and I made it 512 by 512 because it has to be a power of 2. And then I decided, well, it can be 256 by 256, like that's good enough. And that made it 850K to 170 kilobytes. This one, obviously, I set the width to 256. I optimized the quality. I forced it to be 256 by 256. And that went down to 2 kilobytes, right? So I'm making these things smaller. I could probably make this an SVG and make it even smaller, but this was easier than trying to make an SVG. So I just did it this way. And what's really, really cool about that is that web page that I was just playing around with that puts art in different places in the room. It has an animated GIF and all of that. It's just 11 requests and 600 kilobytes, right? So that sort of felt cutting edge. I mean, I know it didn't really work that well, but it's an alpha API. But at 600K for a web page is like half the size of the average web page. Yet I was doing augmented reality. So what I think is really cool about all of this is that we can do augmented reality today, and the stuff that's coming, normally you think, oh, new technology is going to be super intense, processor intensive, it's going to use a lot of data. But I can run it on a regular Android phone, and it doesn't use a huge amount of data. You can build these things without breaking, you know, your development bank or breaking your customers' data plans. Like, it's all kind of fun and cool. And so with that, if you want to, you can go and fork this and play around with it. Yeah, and then those are the links to all the different stuff that I've been doing. That's the code for the art gallery stuff, and then for the WebXR demo. That's the spec for the WebXR, and then Cloudinary is where I'm hosting all my images to do all that fun stuff.
WebXR is implemented by Google?
It is a W3C thing, so Google's working on it. I've met a woman who works for Amazon who's working on it. So it's basically a consortium of the web who are all working to make it something that works for everybody.
And it will be a native API on the browser?
It will be a native API on the browser, and all of the browser manufacturers are supporting it. So it's gonna be supported in Safari, in Chromium, in Opera, all of those browsers. So it's just, what's cool about this is it'll just work out of the box on basically anyone who has a smartphone. And that really makes it a lot easier for you to get, if you build something cool, for you to get it out to a lot of people without a lot of hassle. You just need a URL.
You need to have AirCore to make this.
Today you do. So I think you will need that on Android, but I think that works on almost, like, I think for this demo it required Android 8, but I think they're going to make it, I think they'll make it more backward compatible so it'll run on older devices as well. And I think there's been work on that since I've played with the demo, but I haven't, I don't have all the details on that.
So what would be the difference between, for instance, this web browser and some native Android app, for instance?
Well, I mean,
it's a huge difference. Maybe we can get close to.
I think you can get close to, there's some limitations with A-frame to how close you can get to like a full 3D Unity. I think when you build with Unity, you get sort of physics where you can't run through walls and,
I don't mean physics.
Yeah, for gaming and stuff like.
Just for the detection part.
Yeah, I think so. What's great about doing it in the browser is it's really easy if you want to play with it. Like you can do their couple demos and you can be building stuff really, really quickly. For me, I think there's a really low barrier of entry. If just a little bit of technology, you can get in there and start building stuff. And then if you want to go on and build stuff inside apps and with Unity and more, it's stepping stones to get there. Did we lose the audio?
Just this one.
Just that one.
Any more questions? Okay. Big thank you to Doug for the presentation.
Thank you.